Alright, welcome back. This is a review for Fruits Basket Season 2, Episode 17/42. Sorry about this episode being late. My computer just decided it was going to freak out and wouldn't actually allow me to watch the episode on Crunchyroll off of my computer. I could watch it off of, apps, but it just wouldn't, the computer wouldn't actually, let me watch. It was weird. I figured it out, though, so no worries. We're all good now. It was just frustrating as all. Anyway, so on to the actual episode, which is actually a very calming episode, which is something that we needed, considering, considering what's been going on in the past episode, and it's definitely a breath of fresh air considering that, what this week's episode / episode 18 was, which I'll probably be uploading that one soon too. But it's just more of a relaxing episode. There's little things here and there I'm going to point out. So hopefully this episode shouldn't be too long. But I can't guarantee that. Anyway, but this episode is mainly they're going on their school trip to Kyoto. And it's full of a lot of more really kind of random, goofy hijinks. There's a lot of hilarious little things in here, like Uo and Hana trying to call Kyo over, do an animal call, trying to call Kyo over so they can feed him food. It's like, oh, wild animals will treat you well. If you feed wild animals, they'll become nicer. There were some absolutely hilarious things here, which are all in the manga, and it's like a little cat talking, the little cat that gets angry at Kyo, and it's like, fine, you're talking to another girl, fine, I'm just gonna go home. That happens in the manga too, and it's just, there's a lot of funny little scenes like that. But this episode's kind of split into two parts. You get the first half, which is more of Kyo and Tohru centric, and then the second half, which is more of Yuki centric. So the first half is we get Kyo they're going on their trip, and you get an absolutely tons of hilarious stuff going on. But at one point, Kyo gets pulled aside by some random girl who's trying to confess to him, and he's just like, yeah, I'm not interested in you, I don't even know what your name is. And she's like, don't worry, you can learn my name while we're dating. And Kyo's just like, no, just stay away from me, don't touch me, don't come near me. Why would you even want to date someone that you don't even know the name of? No. And of course, Uo and Hana and two of Kyo's friends, schoolmates, they all show up, and they kind of interject in there, and there's hilarity. Also, the absolute hilariousness of the said confession girl being turning to Uo and be like, you're just here to stop me and get in my way because you like Kyo, and Kyo and Uo are like, are you crazy? And you start yelling at her, and it's hilarious. But the important part is that Kyo comes back to said main group with Yuki, where Yuki and Tohru are at, and Tohru's like, oh, hey, what was all that about? And Kyo is just kind of like, oh, it was nothing, don't worry about it, it's none of your business. Just don't worry about it. And Yuki comes up and he just karate chops him in the head. It's like 4 times power karate chop, which they don't mention it in the anime, unfortunately. But in Yuki's section, right at the beginning of Yuki's section of this episode, we see when you kind of see Yuki flashback to asking Machi and Neo if they want any souvenirs, and of course Neo says something, and you see in the background Kakeru comes up and karate chops him in the head. It's not stated in the manga, but not in the anime, but in the manga it's stated that Yuki learned his karate chop, that karate chop technique from Kakeru, but then used 4 times as much strength. There's a lot of little funny things in this episode. But Yuki karate chops him and is like, you're a complete idiot! And Kyo's like, well, okay, fine, whatever, jeez. It's just so fun. It's just so funny. But then we skip over to Tohru's kind of souvenir shopping, and she thinks back, and she's like, Kyo saying that, oh, it's none of your business. She's like, I've heard someone say that to me before, but it's just like how him saying what he said on the roof in the previous episode kind of got to me. It kind of makes my heart ache. And then she goes outside and she realizes that no one's around, but she sees Kyo, so she walks up to him. That's where you get the little funny cat scene. And the cat walks off, and she's like, "Should we go after it?" And he's like, "No, don't worry about it. It came on its own. It'll go back on its own. It's fine." And he gets up and he starts walking to what we later find out is he gets up because he's gonna go get some food. And Tohru starts singing, "Is he gonna do that? Is he gonna treat me that way one day, where he's just gonna up and leave me and walk away and abandon me and do kind of what, and just not care about leaving me behind? Will he do that to? Will that happen one day?" Um, and so she turns around and she grabs onto his shirt, and he looks back, and then he grabs her hand and says, "Hey, what's up? What's the matter?" Which is you can see the completely different sides of Kyo, because obviously with the girl that was confessing to him, where he's like, "Don't touch me, stay away from me," and he was on edge. And then with Tohru, who comes up and grabs his shirt, and he's like, he turns around, grabs her hand, and he's like, "Hey, he's so sweet and so gentle with her." And it's so good. The part that they did skip out over was that, actually, well, there's a couple parts. Um, One of the parts that they skipped over here, they kind of joined together. Oops, they kind of joined together. Is So when Tohru goes to run off and grab his shirt, she actually drops her wallet with her mother's picture in there. Um, which then, of course, Kyo's the one who kind of points out, "Oh, hey, did you like drop your wallet or something?" And because she kind of freaks out, then he picks it up and they find it, and he picks it up and hands it to her. But it's that scene was cut, and then but there's kind of a little bit of symbolism to it. So it's unfortunate that it was cut. But with her chasing after Kyo, and her dropping her mother's wallet, dropping the photo of her mom with the wallet with the photo of her mom in it, and her not realizing it or worrying about it initially. Um, but yeah, I mean, but it's understandable, because even Natsuki has mentioned in some of her Twitter posts that there are certain things that had to be cut, and she understands that, and it's fine with her, because not everything can be fit in for runtime's sake. And she even said that she gets that, because even manga wise, there were definitely things that she wanted to add in, but due to page count, she couldn't put them in there. And so she was like, "Man, if I did have the ability, if I had the ability to like not have a certain amount of page numbers, I would have Fruits Basket would have gone forever with the amount of things that I would have added in, with all the amount of things that I would have, all the things that popped into my head that I would have wanted to add in." So it's fine that it got skipped over. It's okay. Um, and then the other scene that gets skipped over is kind of the transition between this second half and the other next half, which is that there's a little brief scene where pretty much it's nighttime, everyone's in bed, and one of the other teachers comes up to Mayuko, and the other teacher's freaking out, going, "Oh no, the boys and the girls are mingling, we gotta keep them separated and whatnot, we don't want anything happening." And Mayuko's like, "Fine, whatever, let's go do it, let's go settle this, get them separated or whatever." And then they walk past both the girls' dorms and the boys' dorm, and she notices that Tohru, Uo, and Hana are all sleeping in the girls' room, and then Kyo and Yuki are sleeping in the boys', and she's like, "Don't, they're kind of these guys are odd. Don't they have any interest in doing anything that the other kids their age are doing? It's kind of strange, but okay." It's just a funny little scene. But then we skip over to the Yuki half of the episode, where it's Yuki. He gets woken up. He's not an early. He's hard to rise in the early morning. He's a sleepyhead in the morning, and so Kakeru has to wake him up, and then Yuki yells at him, and Kakeru's like, "Rrr!" And gets kind of does this little chibi angry face at him, which is funny. But Yuki's half of the story, we get, Tohru ask him, "Oh, hey, like, are you gonna get any souvenirs?" And he's like, "No, I think I'll just be happy with if I can come out of this, if I can bring back the good memories, and I guess I'll be fine with that." And Tohru's like, "Yeah, you will. You'll be able to look back. I'm sure that you'll be able to think back on these days with these good memories, and you'll be happy about them. They'll be with you." And he's like, "Yeah, okay." And he winds up talking with Kakeru, we skip over to him talking with Kakeru, and Coach Kakeru's like, "Oh, hey, like you're in Toru Honda's group, aren't you?" And Yuki's like, "Hey, why do you keep bringing up Toru? Like, what is your deal with her? Why do you keep talking about her?" And Kakeru's like, "Oh, well, what if I told you that I liked her?" And Yuki's like, "Well, I mean, that's your thing. I mean, if if you wanna if you like her, that's up to her. That's between you and her. That's for you to tell her and for her to make her decisions whether she likes you or not. But however, and I don't care either way. But if I find out that you are doing that, you're just trying to get with her to mess with her or to you're just being selfish or whatever, then I will react as I see fit." Um, and I could never forgive you if you ever actually did that. Now he's saying, now of course, Kakeru the whole time is just playing devil's advocate in a lot of ways. He's trying to see how Yuki feels about Toru, but then on the opposite end with Yuki, as he's talking about these things, he's not really talking. When he starts saying, when he starts talking about how he feels about like how he's not, how he wouldn't ever forgive him, he's not actually talking to Kakeru at this. He thinks of Kyo because he himself at this point recognizes. I forgot to mention this earlier but when Kyo's being pulled away to go be confessed to, uh, Toru's like, "Huh, what's going on?" And Yuki's like, "Hey, don't worry, he won't accept." And that's because Yuki is very observant of what's been going on. That he can very easily, he knows for sure that Kyo has feelings for Toru, but he also can tell that Toru's kind of might have feelings for Kyo as well. That she might be starting to develop feelings for him, and so but more so with Kyo, that he thinks, I would never, if you hurt her, I would never forgive you. So he's more so thinking of Kyo and saying that while thinking of Kyo than he actually is talking about or to Kakeru. And Kakeru's like, "Well, what would you do if that did happen?" And Yuki's like, "Well, then I guess I wouldn't be your friend." And Kakeru's like, "You wouldn't be my friend?" Kind of like, "What?" And Yuki realizes that he said something kind of really childish, and that and he gets really embarrassed and frustrated, and he tries to like correct himself, but Kakeru just rolls with it. Kakeru's like, "What do you mean you won't be my friend?" And it's just hilarious. And then Kakeru's like, I was just kidding. I was just messing around. That was just hypothetical. What? Don't be mean to me." I was like, it's absolutely hilarious. And then Kimi joins in, and there's an absolutely hilarious conversation that goes down with Kimi, and of course, all amongst this, you also find out that Kakeru has a girlfriend. But it's absolutely hilarious, and it's fun. And as Yuki's kind of standing there watching this all go on, he's thinking, hey, you know what? Having someone that can actually open up and be open about their feelings and what they say, and be perfectly fine with reacting and doing these things, it's not too bad. And thinks, even though I said some of those about the whole friendship thing and some other silly nonsense, that me, being able to openly say these more childish things, that really wasn't so bad either. And so he's starting to become his own. He's starting to really kind of not care as much about what other people think of him in a lot of ways. And that before, of course, he used to always think about what people thought of him, but now he's starting to really kind of open up and be like, yeah, you know what, I don't really care what other people have to say or think about me. I'm gonna just be me. I'm gonna do what I want to do. And so he's like, yeah, you know what, one day I'm gonna look back at these memories, and just like as Toru said, and I'm gonna be happy. They're gonna tickle my heart, as he says, or warm his. I'd prefer to say warm his heart, but he said tickle, which is an interesting way to say it. And he reaches up, and there's bunch of maple leaves falling, and grabs the maple leaf, and this beautiful transition where he grabs the maple leaf and he brings it down and he puts it in front of Machi, and he's like, "Oh, hey, like I found this maple leaf floated right in front of me, and I thought it was beautiful, so I want you to have it." Of course, he also tells Neo, "Oh, hey, do you want it too?" But then Machi just kind of looks at it, and she lifts it up in the air, and she's looking at it, and get little anime bubbles, and it's like, oh my gosh, oh, I love Machi too much. She's too precious. But then we get the very end of the episode where because again, something I forgot to mention was that what Toru bought for a souvenir was that she bought figurines. In particular, she bought Zodiac figurines. And so we get back to where they're back at Shigure's house now, obviously. And Kyo knocks on Toru's door, like, "Hey, Sugar wants to know if you want to go out to dinner." And he's like, "Oh, well, you're still in your uniform. Why is that?" She's like, "Oh, well, I was kind of working on some things." And he looks over and he sees not only did she have an entire set of 12 Zodiac members, but one of the other things that she bought some modeling clay, and she made a cat figurine. And he's like, and it's so he's like, he just starts blushing, and it's so cute. And it's like, oh my gosh, Toru, you're so sweet. And then Toru, I love you too much. Well, this one, but that's really about it, truth be told. But it's a great episode. It's really funny. It's really relaxing. There's things to talk about. I mean, there was some things I need to talk about, but it's a good episode. It's so much fun. And that's really about it, truth be told. It's not really much to the episode again. It's mainly just a really chill episode. So that's really about it. Of course, this wound up being about the normal length of my episodes, but whatever. um, so anyway, thanks for watching, and bye.